Hi, I'm Keith Howes. I'm 20 years old and I'm gay or homosexual. And I'm lonely, I have no friends, and I'm scared. And I'd just like to ask the me of the future just a few questions. Question number one is, will I ever stop being lonely as a homosexual, as someone that likes my own gender? Because I'm very lonely now. I don't have anyone that I can relate to. I don't know any other people like me. I don't have any friends. And I don't know whether I can just go on being a blob or whether I will ever achieve who I really am. Somebody once said of me, you're like ectoplasm, you just flow. So I'm just going to ask you, older Keith Howes, am I going to be lonely for the rest of my life? Loneliness. I'm going to say something a bit cruel to you, my 20-year-old self. You were lonely because you never gave anything. You never ever indicated to anybody that you were interesting or interested in what they had to say. Frankly, you were boring. You were drab. You didn't go out to meet people. Now, I know that you were worried and lonely and fearful and all that sort of stuff, and it seems so easy for me to say to you, you should have come out of yourself when you weren't out. The next year, when I was 21, everything changed. Loneliness is not something I ever have to deal with. I love being solitary, I love spending time on my own, but I also love my friends and my partner, being with them. But loneliness is a state of mind, and it also can be a disease. It can really eat away at you. All I can say is now with the internet and the wide world out there, you never really need be alone at all. There are always going to be people who will be your kin. And you don't have to rely on the kindness of strangers because you've actually got a kinship which is vast. And that's not just other gay people or homosexual, as you would have said back then, but people of all kinds, because they will be attracted to you, because they will see you, because you're now out there in your fullness, so that when people see me, they can either like me, not like me, be indifferent to me, and we can forge a friendship, or we can forge an acquaintanceship, or we just simply meet and pass on. But loneliness is something that for people who are hiding themselves, sometimes from themselves, it is a very great and terrible disability. And I feel for you, 20-year-old Keith Howes, but all I can say is if you just hang on in there, you will jump over that chasm. I'd like to ask you about rejection, because at the moment nobody knows who I am or what I am, because I just hide basically in the shadows. I hardly say anything to people. I kind of mumble, I make jokes, but when people say, sorry, what did you say? I just ignore them. So nobody knows who I am. But what if they did know who I am? Would they reject me? Would my family not want me around so much? Or would they feel strange in my company because I'm not like them? What about my cousins? They're all heterosexual. It's a very heterosexual family, and I'm the odd one out. Am I going to go through life just finding that I can't say who I am because people might shun me or turn their backs or laugh, make jokes? I couldn't bear that. I couldn't bear being humiliated, publicly humiliated. At least now no one knows, so they don't make jokes about me. But how am I going to deal with the possible rejection that I'm going to have over the next however many years? So I'm asking you, the Keith Howes of the future, how can I avoid being rejected for who I am? Rejection. Well, that is something that all of us have to fear, because we like to feel that people like us and that they love us and they want us for who we are. Sometimes we have to show sides of ourselves that are not always attractive and not always saying the right things or the things that people want to hear. And being gay back then was something that was seen as an affliction. It was seen as possibly something even evil. Certainly strange, queer was one of the words. So yeah, I can feel the darts, even as I say that word queer, even though it has a different connotation today. I can feel that hurt that you would have felt. By being anonymous, you never ever had to be called names. You could always just be that rather strange boy in the background that never really said anything. A rejection is part of life, but acceptance is so much more important, isn't it? If you accept yourself, then rejection doesn't really have the same power to disconnect you from who you are. So I'd say accept, 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 and one of the things you have to accept is rejection. If I'm just very, very good and do my work really well, will that sort of be enough? And that will save me having to look for other homosexual people, or to go where other homosexual people might be. I don't know where that would be because I don't know any. But if I just kind of hide, grow a beard, be nice, be sweet to people, do my job well, and gain respect that way, is that the way I'm going to gain respect? By being professional, by being eager, enthusiastic, friendly, always agreeable? Am I just going to be a smiling, nodding face? Can I ever really show the other sides of my personality? How can I not disappear? Friendship. I'm not sure whether you were really thinking of that one special person, that one special friend. I've certainly had the one special person, and then I've had the two special persons, and I've had the three special persons. But really we're looking at friendship, and as a gay man, you have friendship coming at you from every possible angle, because not only are gay people, your kin group, so interesting and fascinating, and they come from all walks of life, they have all sorts of attitudes, they have all sorts of prejudices, they have all sorts of kinds of humor, they've got different travel experiences, they've got different spiritual experiences. You know, the world is your oyster, but not only is it going to be gay people you're going to find as your potential friends, but also many other people who will see you in your fullness. They'll see things about you that they don't like necessarily. They may reject certain things, they may ignore certain things, but you will find that you will have a big spread of friendship possibilities. I myself am so lucky to have had friends that are still my friends from just after I came out, and they're in England, they're in America, they're in Australia, they're in New Zealand, and they still want to know me. They still think I'm interesting. I'm someone that they enjoy. But then of course I enjoy them too. So it's mutual. It's a symbiosis. It's not a one-way street. Friendship is not going to be a problem, I feel, Keith, once you come out, once you stop hiding, once you stop being a bore, and once you actually open your mouth and say things that other people can hear, and don't mumble things under your breath or make sarcastic remarks that really put people off. Friendship is something which is a human possibility that knows no bounds. So enjoy your friends and they will enjoy you. And this is the big one, sex. What do I do? Where do I go? And what is it going to be like, the sex? What do you do? Do you kiss? Do you cuddle? Do you say anything? How can I want a relationship. I want a relationship like my parents have for 35 years. I don't want to be just a kind of twilight figure going from place to place, searching for things. I want to find somebody with whom I can spend the rest of my life. How am I going to do that? Is that possible? Are we able to do that? Or are we flawed in some way? Is there something corrupted about us? I just don't know where to begin. Where do I start? How do I lose my virginity? And what will happen when I do? Ooh, yes, that's a big one, isn't it? Sex, sexuality, eroticism, cuddling, sweetness, tenderness, intimacy. Ooh, I had real problems with intimacy, yes, and saying I loved you to someone was a big problem for me too. I suppose it was because I was brought up with parents that lived together for over 35 years and were very romantic to one another. I was brought up with Hollywood movies, so it was very much roses and saying sweet nothings to people. And of course, that's not necessarily what you're going to find when you actually emerge into what we now call the gay world or queer world or the LGBTQ world. You will find that you may make lots of mistakes. You may find that even as I did, by going straight into a monogamous relationship, that actually wasn't really the best thing for me. It might have been better to have actually had relationships lasting perhaps one night, a week, a year, and actually learnt more about myself through those relationships, because that's what relationships are about. They're a teaching, they're a university, and some of those lessons we learn are very hard because we are revealed totally as ourselves, not only in our nakedness but in our true essence of who we are as people, our principles, our values, and the shoddy things about us are revealed in relationships too. But they're very supportive. I find relationships with men enormously important, and the lovingness, the tenderness that you find not just in sexual relationships but in all the relationships that you have with males are something that only really homosexual men can experience. It's one of the great joys of being gay, is that you actually have relationships with men rather than just friendships or biological necessities. I was very lucky in that I did have good role models. I got to know quite a few gay men who were in relationships of all different kinds, not just monogamous, but they were always true to themselves within the relationships. You will find that you will live and love and learn quite naturally. It will just happen quite naturally. You won't have to necessarily force anything. You won't necessarily have to read books about it or manuals. You won't have to necessarily consult telephone lines. You've got the internet, which you didn't have when you were 20 years old. There are so many people out there in so many forms. But for me, meeting someone face to face, looking at their eyes, feeling that atmosphere that they generate, nothing ever comes up to that. There can be no machine that can duplicate the true coming together of two human beings.